Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'm so excited because I'm at the start of my year-long project for 2026, the 1996 project. I have a lot of new subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing. I appreciate it. But a couple years back, I did the 1999 project, where I covered as many movies as I could from the year 1999. And so I decided to pick another year and do it again, with the same rules applying for that project as it is this one. Rule number one: I will not be covering every movie in 1996 because I pretty much can't. I will do my best to cover as many as I can and paint as complete a picture of the year as possible, but some movies I just couldn't find. I looked everywhere. Trust me, I did. And in some cases I just couldn't find them. But I have well over 200 movies that I have on my list. So if I missed one, it was not for a lack of trying, but I'm going to paint as complete a picture as possible. Number two, I'm going by the US release calendar, the schedule from 96. So if so there will be ones that came out in late 95 but got a wide release in 96, kind of similar to how it is nowadays. And thirdly, I will be covering some re-releases. For example, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was re-released for an anniversary. So I will be covering that. However, when I do my best of 96 or worst of 96, those re-releases will not be factored. I'm only counting new releases. But I still wanted to talk about them because I don't know when I'll be able to get a chance to talk about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory ever again, so I'm going to take it. So with that out of the way, let's get started with 1996. First week of January, big year. What do we start off with? Oh, crap.
People didn't like me in high school.
Biodome was directed by Jason Blum. Not Jason Blum, Jason Blum. They're different people. And the movie starred Pauly Shore, Stephen Baldwin, William Asherton, and Walter Peck from Ghostbusters. Yeah, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. This movie's horrible. It's about these two friends who are just about the dumbest people you could ever meet in your life. They're just slackers in every sense of the word, but somehow, some way, they end up getting stuck in this biodome experiment where these scientists are locking themselves in a controlled environment for a year to see the impact humanity has on the environment. Somehow these two boobs end up in the biodome, and instead of kicking them out like scientists and starting over again, they decide to keep him in, and a million air quotes hilarity ensues. Yeah, like I said, this movie's just terrible. I watched the Nostalgia Critic review of it like years ago, thinking it can't be that bad, right? And about 20 minutes in, I'm like, he was being too nice. This movie's terrible. And what it really boils down to is two things. Number one, it's not funny. And number two, these people are just stupid. Number one, every joke in this movie boils down to Pauly Shore and his annoying laugh, Stephen Baldwin running his head into something hard, and that's it. That's the comedy. And it's not funny. It's the complete opposite of a comedy. It's anti-humor, and it got so annoying at a point. The movie is 95 minutes long, and it felt 3 times that, especially when it's just the two of them. I wanted to turn it off so bad. Big time go away heat with this one. And then number two, the people are just stupid. Like, everyone is stupid in this. Even the supposed smart people are stupid. Instead of tossing Bud and Doyle out and saying, sorry guys, these guys got in here, we don't know why, but we're starting it over again, they keep them in because they've already started. We might as well see what happens. And to predictable results, everything just goes completely wrong. And no one comes out looking good in this. Everyone sucks. Everyone is annoying. It's just, it's one of those. It's one of those movies that make my stomach churn. It was so bad. It's getting a horrid. Like, it's just completely not funny in every conceivable form and fashion. When people talk about January and how January movies today are bad, I humbly beseech you to go and check out Biodome and see how bad January movies can be. But we got another comedy after that, and thankfully this one is much, much better. It's Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood.
DVD with 14 words in the title. Don't be a menace to South Central.
Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood was directed by Paris Barkley, primarily known for his work in TV. He is, as of this video at least, doing a lot of work on the Netflix true crime side of things. He's directed episodes of Dahmer and Monsters, the Lyle and Eric Menendez story. And it starred several Wayans family members, and this serves as a parody and a send-up of the movies that we got that are called hood movies. From the early 90s up to the mid-90s, we got movies like Juice, Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood, that spotlight very real problems in the African American community. Directed by guys like John Singleton, the Hughes brothers, and guys like that. And this is the Wayans brothers' send-up of those. And kind of similar to Biodome, your enjoyment of this really depends on one thing. In this case, it was the charm of Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin. Well, here, it really depends on your tolerance for the Wayans brothers. I think the Wayans brothers can be very funny, so I had a great time with this. I actually did a watch party with this about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago with Collins, Matt, and TJ from Blacktastic Media, and we had a great time. And it does, like, I'll just get the big negative out of the way. I get why people would dislike this, because it does play on stereotypes, like very blatantly at that. There's a character that like treats every interaction like prison. Like, he has a shank. He treats cigarettes as currency. It's very blatant in that regard. There is a corner grocery store that is operated by an Asian couple who, when you enter the store, and you hear the alarm go doo-doo. Well, here, the alarm says the gamer word, the N-word that is used derogatorily towards the African American community. If you know, you know. So that's the level of humor that we're getting here. But the movie is just so funny. There's just so much to laugh at here. There's a lot of running jokes here, like how there's 40-ounce bottles of malt liquor everywhere. Keenan Ivory Wayans is a mailman who pops up every now and again to go, "Message," at the top of his lungs to put a finer point on, oh, this is what you're supposed to be feeling with this. I got a kick out of that. And really, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's this one female character who has like 6 or 7 kids, and he goes, "Kids, what do you say?" And the kids go, "Are you my dad?" So yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. But I laughed my head off several times with this, and I am not ashamed to admit that. I'm going to give this a great rating. It does go lowbrow on occasion, but I will admit that I had a great time watching it. I hesitate to say this is the Wayans' best work, but it's definitely funny nonetheless. So do yourself a favor, hunt this one down and watch it. But now, to complete the comedy sandwich, we got a bad comedy, a good comedy, and the bottom loaf of bread is a bad comedy. It's Dunston Checks In.
And facing unimaginable danger, Dunston Checks In.
Dunston Checks In was directed by Ken Kwapis, who is primarily known nowadays for directing many episodes of The Office, and it starred Jason Alexander, Sean the orangutan, or Sam the orangutan, excuse me, Faye Dunaway, and Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman. It tells a story of two brothers who live with their father, whose father is the manager for a big luxury hotel. So, kind of like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, but while that show was funny, this movie's not. But I'll touch on that in a second. A con man played by Rupert Everett goes in under the guise of being a super rich guy, but in reality is going to steal everyone's jewels and uses his orangutan Dunston in order to do this. Yeah, there was a big ol' thing for monkey movies in the mid 90s. I don't know why, but there just was. This is one of them, and this is just straight up not funny. Again, I can kind of see why people kind of would like this, but again, at the same time, I just didn't laugh once at this. Every joke boils down to the monkey did something funny, sort of, kind of, but not really, though. And the kids doing something vaguely Home Alone related, even though that concept by 96 was about as stale as day-old bread. Hell, even Home Alone couldn't replicate Home Alone, even though I like Home Alone 2, but that's besides the point. Jason Alexander is trying. He even has the funniest scene in the movie, the one scene that got half a chuckle out of me, but he's just wasted here. Like, he's wasted as an actor. Same thing with Faye Dunaway. What is she doing here? I don't know. And there's just so many decisions here where you're just like, what are we doing here? Was comedy even a thought here? I don't think so. And I recognize that I am not the demographic for this. This is meant for little kids and families. But at the same time, if you're going to make a movie for families and little kids, make it funny. Don't go the Baby Geniuses route. Dunston Checks In is horrid. It's so not funny and just so cringe to get through. Thankfully, we're taking a break from comedies and taking a look at, in some aspects, a very distressing little movie. It's called Eye for an Eye. Eye for an Eye was directed by John Schlesinger, who had directed movies like Midnight Cowboy and Marathon Man, and it stars Sally Field, Ed Harris, and Kiefer Sutherland. It tells the story of a woman named Karen, played by Sally Field, who one day finds out that her daughter was brutally assaulted and killed at the hands of a delivery boy played by Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland's character is arrested and is in court, but gets off on a severe technicality. You can imagine how Karen reacts to this and decides to take matters into her own hands. I don't go into these movies watching any trailers or anything like that, so I go in as blind as possible. And with this, I never heard of it, never knew anything about it. And it's good, but I also have to be like, for 96, I think we're pushing this a little bit. The best part of the movie by a lot are two things. Sally Field, she's predictably great and just carries the movie. Ed Harris is good too, but it's the Sally Field show for this. And then you got Kiefer Sutherland, who is just an asshole in this. Like, I always knew him as Jack Bauer from 24, and he could play edgy or evil characters like in Flatliners or The Lost Boys. But here, he's just straight up evil. Like, even when he gets off of when his case is dismissed, he's being escorted out of the court. He turns to Karen and goes, sorry, which is a mocking of the fact that her daughter had a speech impediment. Yeah, I wanted to punch the TV. Like, it was like that. So Kiefer Sutherland did a great job in making me hot. But man, there was just some aspects of this where I'm just like, yeah, they were getting away with a lot in 96. Not to mention there were certain storylines that I just felt like did not belong here. In terms of the content, you don't exactly see the assault on the daughter, but you see it like through cuts and cutaways, and there's no denying of what all is going down here. It's genuinely distressing to watch. And I, like I said, even for 96, I feel like that's pushing it a bit too far, because I'm just like, did someone not think to be like, isn't this a bit much? This is especially when you consider that later on in the movie, when Karen is going to ask about Keith Sutherland's character where he lives, the records keeper basically says, I have to block out his address. It's a privacy thing. So, like, you have to block out his address, but that part of it just made no sense to me. And that's the other problem. There's just a bunch of story threads that just are either picked up and then dropped, or just never mentioned again after a certain point. Like, there is a bit of a thing with an assault survivor support group where a couple of them are vigilantes, one of whom is played by the late Philip Baker Hall, and that goes nowhere. And then there's that vigilante group is being followed by someone planted in the group from the FBI, and that goes nowhere. It just feels like they were just stuffing this movie with stuff, and it just felt too busy. The movie is an hour 41 minutes, and you could have easily made this 2 hours and fit at least one of those in there, but they didn't. The best part of the movie by a lot is the ending, where it just comes down to Karen and Kiefer Sutherland's character fighting in a house. That part was great. So much so that I'm going to give this a good rating, but just a barely good rating. I give this one a modest recommendation, but just know that there are some parts that may be a bit distressing for some, so just know your mileage. Well, we go back to Crapsville, and we go now to Lawnmower Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace. Yes, this is a real thing. Lawnmower Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace was directed by Farhad Mann, and it is the sequel to The Lawnmower Man that was released earlier in the decade. It starred Patrick Bergin, Matt Frewer, and Austin O'Brien, among others. And this is the sequel to The Lawnmower Man, where, I'll be completely honest, I don't remember much of this movie. I forgot all of it as soon as it was done. And this part of this video might be particularly brief, but just know that there's just nothing much to report with this one. There's just so much thrown at you in terms of story and character that you just can barely catch up with it. The movie operates on like 2 times speed at points, and I'm just like, someone explain something to me, just please. And I haven't seen The Lawnmower Man in a minute, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I just have to sit there and I just be like, what? And then you got the effects, which are just terrible. Even the fact, with the caveat that 1996 we weren't at Avatar Fire and Ash levels of effects, so I understand that, but even still, these were just terrible. This movie's horrid. And with a movie like Lawnmower Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace, like, I'm sure you're like, what did you expect? At the same time, I'm like, this should have been at least watchable, but it just is not. But to round things off, to kick off the maiden voyage, we get to another sort of kind of comedy, well, a rom-com, if you will, that was going to be like, that was going for something, and it just turned out to be nothing. It's 2 If by Sea.
Stolen Hearts.
2 If by Sea was directed by Bill Bennett and starred Dennis Leary and Sandra Bullock. It tells the story of a couple played by Leary and Bullock, one of whom, being Leary, is a petty thief, and he steals a painting worth thousands of dollars. The movie catches up with them on the run and hiding out in a small Rhode Island town. Sandra Bullock's character wants more out of their relationship, but Dennis Leary's character is being a little too busy being a thief in order to care. So Sandra Bullock's character ends up just forcing the issue pretty much. And this is a movie that I thought was okay in bursts, but ultimately not the best material of Sandra Bullock. Like, Sandra Bullock carries this movie and makes it halfway watchable. Like, she has a couple of my favorite scenes in the movie by far, and she has some of my favorite lines, even though her character's taste in Batman movies is questionable at best. Like, she says she saw 3 of them and they all sucked. So by my math, that means she's seen Batman 89, Batman Returns, and Batman Forever. Well, yes, technically 3, unless Batman Forever hadn't been released yet on home video because it came out the year prior. Well, regardless, her Batman takes are not good, but her character is the best part. Dennis Leary is almost insufferable in this. He's basically doing a Type 5 and his own stand-up routine, and it gets grating after a while. On his second rant about gay men, I was done. And not because it was particularly offensive, but it was just because I was just like, get better jokes. Like, watch some Gabriel Iglesias and get some better jokes. That's all that I'm saying. And the movie just focuses on them, and they're just borderline unlikable, like both of them, for a lot of reasons. There's just nothing about them that makes it redeemable, and you're just stuck with these people. And it gets very grating after a while. I'm going to give this a forgettable rating. I'm not going to go horrid because Sandra Bullock is trying, and I have a feeling that she was just given terrible material. I will give credit where credit is due, though. She does make it tolerable, and I'll just leave it at that. So we're off to a rip-roaring start with 96, but I promise the movies do get better after this. What did you think of any of the movies that I have covered? Let me know in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.